You have to be nice tonight, John, because your grandson's
That I will. That's my grandson Tim right there.
And happy birthday.
Thank you again. I want to compliment City Council on hiring city manager from within. It really should have done that last time. Man, particularly someone from the Berg. But I saw you quoted something that really bothered me in today's paper. You used the word charrette, and that's not a good word right here. Charrettes are spin-offs of the Delphi method, which was developed by the Rand Corporation as psychological warfare for the government in the 1950s. The purpose is usually to achieve a predetermined outcome of a controversial subject. It's a divide and conquer system. First, break up large groups into smaller groups. Break up groups like what you've seen, what some council members and you have seen at other meetings. It's a crowd control system. In individual groups, opinions aren't voiced so everybody can hear. Then the group facilitator, which is usually an expert that's not part of the system, only voices predetermined consensus and underplays objecting opinions. This hit us first time I ever saw it was in 2002 after the third crossing referendum when Senator Marty Williams had one, and he was about the crossing, and he, by the way, was defeated in the next election. The process is so sensitive and so secretive that critical opinions since then have been scrubbed from the internet. The ones I passed out here you'll get are some that I say, but you can't find them anymore on the internet. I can predict now what the census will be. A vibrant pastoral community with public access to the beach, where all residents can meet in a community, play in a community spirit. But they won't mention the resident-only parking signs and a long trek the residents will have to go to get to the skinny little beach that's left. We don't need outside town experts conducting charrettes or making studies to decide whether to develop or keep the city farm as a park. Your constituents have already decided and have told you loudly, we want a park with no residences. After council agrees to keep the park, then we can have some charrettes to determine how to configure the park. Productive charrettes without predetermined outcomes, but not until. Thank you all very much.
Christine Gergley.
Good evening. I'm Christine Jakes Gergley, and I live in Newport News on Winter Haven Drive. I totally agree that using the charrette process, which is a spin-off of the Delphi method, can be extremely unfair. While serving on BRAC during the closing of Fort Monroe, early during the process, Dover Cole was hired to assess the public's opinions. A charrette was held, and it was very large, for the public to present ideas to the Fort Monroe Development Authority. Each group had a moderator. As reported from people who were assigned to different groups, the moderators did not report all of the ideas which were given. Many moderators told their group that certain suggestions were not allowed. In addition, many assigned observers who were going from table to table also told participants that their ideas were not allowed. Many moderators were convincing participants through trained questioning techniques that their ideas were not pertinent. I feel certain if a charrette were held that the real estate developers and those who would greatly profit from a residential area would quietly cram into each group. My major concern about the charrette process at this point is that the moderator decides that certain ideas are not reported. Every idea that a citizen has should be listed and the ideas should never be weighed or left out when reporting from small groups. This process has the ability to quickly and quietly cheat the participants. A request was made to the Fort Monroe Development Authority and to the Fort Monroe Authority that this process never be used again, and to my knowledge it hasn't. Actually, it is too early to decide exactly what you want in a park. You don't need the specifics. You must first decide whether you want a park like the citizens are requesting or a residential area. I totally understand about waiting for the archaeological report. Perhaps the citizens would like for the decision of a park or residential area to be brought up to the public on election day. That way City Council would know how many people actually want a park, many more than those who are attending the meetings today. Thank you.
Lori Blanford.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lori Blanford, and I live in the Riverside neighborhood of Newport News. I hope y'all are doing well. I had two things that I wanted to talk about today. The first one was Riverview Farm Park. And I thought about it, and I was thinking about New York City and Central Park. And so I did a Google search. And the first thing that comes up is a paragraph about its people. And then it says, quote, its iconic sites include skyscrapers such as the Empire State Building and sprawling Central Park, end quote. When people think of cities, great cities, and New York City is considered probably the best city in the United States. And when they consider cities, they think about Central Park, when they think about New York. And I think it's very important for us not to undervalue parks for ourselves. And I think if you took a moment and maybe thought about what would have been like if their city council, the New York City city council members had said, let's just develop it and be done with it. I think that would be a big mistake. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the raises for the teachers. I feel very strongly about that. My son attended the IB program at Warwick High School for 4 years, and he's getting ready to graduate from UVA with 2 degrees. And a big part of the education for children is that the teachers feel valued. They go in, they sit with the students, and they don't feel like they're just, a retail worker or whatever. I've done that. But they feel valued. They feel like the city deems their work important. And that gets reflected on the children's educations. And so while I don't have any children right now in public school or young children, I think that's really important that we have a raise for the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's George Harrison.
Good evening, Mayor Price, Vice Mayor Vick, members of council, City Manager Roth. My name is George Harrison. Tonight, I wanted to talk to you all about two things. The first thing was Riverview Farm Park. And I wanted to thank Ms. Roth for attending the meeting last night with the folks from Save Riverview Farm Park. She did a great job explaining the city's viewpoint on this issue. And also, she was the first city official that I've heard to publicly acknowledge that development is an option that the city's considering. While I'm totally opposed to that, I do appreciate that she was straight with us and said that this was something that the city was considering. Ms. Roth said that the council wants a process and to consider all its options. And that's fine. But let us hope that this process is completed sooner rather than later, and that council reaches the right conclusion. The city farm property should be made a permanent part of Riverview Farm Park and preserved for all the citizens of Newport News, not just a few who can afford to buy McMansions on the river. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about was the budget, which y'all are in the middle of considering. Now, we all acknowledge that economic development is important to the future well-being of our city. And to attract employers, we need an educated workforce. And I've been to the budget public hearings, and I didn't speak at them, but one of the things I was wondering was, why then does the city government insist on shortchanging our public schools? The new dollars that are claimed to be provided in the FY 2018 budget merely pay for a state mandated increase in payments to the Virginia retirement system. And they don't allow for additional new spending or raises for our teachers. And while we've seen the schools trim their administrative costs over the last several years, despite numerous state and federal mandates, the city's spending on administration has grown. And I believe that it's time for council to increase funding for public education and to let the city administration tighten its own belt. Thank you.
Adrian Whitcomb.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Vice Mayor, members of council, and thank you, City Manager, for your presence at the meeting last night. I hope you read the paper today, not only the front page, but also the editorial. And the Daily Press is promoting poetry. Well, I think one thing it does, it tells in a small space, which we have here, a lot of a big idea. So I'm going to read another poem that I've written. It's called A Better Way. There is a way to have our cake, and thus for us to eat it too. Instead of selling off this land, a better way pursue. A park will bring more people in, and in our city they will spend both time and money. In the end, these benefits accrue. The services we thus provide less than for those who do reside, and in our city much more pride in this our waterside. For this our park will have it all, the fields, the farm, marina too. No one will need to ask again, where is the river view? All of us will then enjoy the very best of all the views. A highlight it is sure to be of this our Newport News. So let's think smart and keep this prize. Don't let it slip now from our eyes. For us it should be no surprise. What's good, what's right, what's wise. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Those are all the cards I have. We're now at new business.